Welcome back to Newswatch. It's been a big year for pro-life activists. From heartbeat bills to restricting funding, conservatives and pro-life groups have worked across the nation to create stricter laws on abortions and standards in clinics. Will the victories continue? Joining us now to share what we can expect in 2020 is constitutional law attorney Jenna Ellis. Jenna, to start, let's take a look back at this past year. In your opinion, how did pro-life rights make out in 2019?
2019 was such an excellent year. 5 states passed laws that either restricted abortion or banned it entirely, which is really encouraging as we move forward in 2020 to see state legislatures taking the lead by making sure that they are passing pro-life legislation that now can be challenged in state and federal courts as we see the federal bench increase to conservative judges as President Trump has now appointed 187 conservative judges to the federal bench throughout all of the federal circuits. And so as we move forward into 2020, this is going to be a really big election year, of course, but it'll also be a really big year legislatively for pro-life, as well as state legislatures can continue the fetal heartbeat legislation and move forward to protect life all across America.
What can we expect from pro-life advocates and abortion activists as we begin the new year? Talk more about that.
Yeah, I think that that's going to be a big issue that will surface, especially as the 2020 election moves closer, especially as we look at the statewide election, because that's where the initial battleground will be. And so for the states that still have Democratic controlled legislatures, that's going to be the fight heading into 2020, that pro-life activists and those of us who understand that all human beings are made in the image of God and that we have to protect and preserve life at every stage beginning at conception. We need to move forward and make sure that people understand to vote life and to vote conservative and particularly Republican down ticket, because in the states, this matters to make sure that we have conservative control over government to make sure that we are protecting and preserving life and giving the opportunity and the best opportunity for these fetal heartbeat bills and others that protect life at all stages can pass through the legislatures of every state so that we can make sure, again, to protect and preserve life in most states across America.
Jenna, are there any cases in particular to keep an eye on?
Yes, especially moving forward. Again, I think that the court is not only going to be addressing one case in particular that deals with a Louisiana law that is protecting life and making sure to challenge specifically the undue burden test of Roe versus Wade. The Supreme Court has already agreed to take that case up. It's going to be decided before the end of term this coming June. But there are going to be other significant challenges in the Supreme Court, and whether it's this year or moving ahead into this new decade, then the Supreme Court is definitely going to take a look at Roe versus Wade. And it's my hope, and I know the hope of Christians across America, that Roe versus Wade and that very unconstitutional rule is going to be overturned at the highest court. And I think now more than ever, given that we do have a conservative majority on the bench, that is ripe to be heard at the court and to finally make that rule, that very unconstitutional rule, overturned.
Let's talk more about 2020 being an election year. What can we expect from Republican candidates versus Democratic candidates? Break it down a little bit more for us as far as the abortion issue. What can we expect to hear from them, including the presidential candidates?
Absolutely. Well, if you look at, of course, the federal candidates, President Trump has stood for pro-life. He says very prolifically that all human beings are made in the image of God and that we need to protect and preserve that across the nation fundamentally. And of course, the Democratic candidates are completely pro-abortion at any stage. They are for abortion on demand. They view that as a woman's right to choose, which of course we know as Christians that's fundamentally unconstitutional, because we recognize that the government is obligated to preserve and protect life at all stages. That is a constitutional mandate. And so the difference between conservative Republican candidates and the liberal Democratic candidates on this specific issue is that conservatives stand for pro-life. And so it's not only incumbent upon every Christian, I believe, to vote their conscience and to vote life. And the only federal candidate that is protecting life is President Trump. And that is a single issue that we absolutely can vote for on the federal level. But we need to make sure in every state that we know what candidates for the legislature and for the governor's offices where those are open, that we understand where their position is on the abortion issue, and we make sure that we are voting to preserve and protect life everywhere that we can, and that we as Christians exercise our civic duty responsibly.
All right, constitutional law attorney Jenna Ellis, thank you for your time, Jenna. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and Happy New Year.